African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to a dark and drizzly morning out here, the kind of weather that holds all sorts of mysteries in the African bush. This is Safari Live. Good morning and welcome to another drizzly day out here in the African wilderness. My name is Jamie and this morning getting drenched with me on the back of the vehicle is Viam. Viam, it's still raining. This is wonderful news for our vegetation, less wonderful news for, well, us. We're going to be solidly drenched, it feels like, for the next 3 days. For those of you that have just joined us, welcome on our Sunrise Safari. It is a live safari from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So right up in the top northeastern corner of a country that up until relatively recently has been in the cast iron grip of a drought. Then we had a tropical storm come through. Well, actually technically what we had was a tropical depression, and even then it was a bit of a storm in a teacup that dumped about 60 mils of rain on us, and it feels as though it's been raining on and off ever since. Now don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. And this morning, well actually let me start with last night. Last night Brent and myself were on our way home, only to discover that we were stuck in a lion roadblock where 3 Nkuhumas popped out onto the open area outside of our camp, and we had to go dodge around them. And their tracks lead all the way up here, but it's really, really tricky to track, first of all in this light, but also after it's been raining all night. I'm going to hazard a guess and say we've had about, I don't actually know how much it rained last night because I was fast asleep. But judging by the puddles, I'm going to guess we've had somewhere in the region of 25, maybe 30 mils. Perhaps Brent has something else to say on this subject. I'm sure he's going to tell you more about the rain. Let's head over to him.
Well, morning and welcome to the safari tent. And the killer bees are going to be hitting their heads on everything all morning. So, of course, the 2 tallest members of the Safari Live crew are in a tent designed for James. Yeah, yeah, Brian. I've already hit my head on this about 4 times this morning. And we were asked about rain. And I remember Tristan, you need to put the rain gauge on flush ground. That's not quite flush, but it'll give us a good idea of how much rain we had last night. I don't know what is that. Do you think that's 1 mil? No. So I would say he's 1 centimeter increments. I think I need Tristan to that, but I would say looking at that from the bottom to the top, I'd actually probably say to the 1 is 10, so 10 millimeters. And that was only after Tristan made this. I would say we probably had another 25 during the day. Now the nice thing about that is it was really lovely soaking rain. It wasn't rain that's going to wash off all the topsoil. It was rain that is really going to sort of help soak into the ground, and especially as we move closer and closer to the dry season. He escaped. My microscope creature went for a walk. Okay, where's one of James's doodads that he puts creatures in the microscope to stop them escaping? A very cool rhino beetle. There we go. Now, the really cool thing about this rhino beetle is, oh dear, this thing's very, I'm just going to have to do this because I think, otherwise, oh no, this is going to be far too messy. Hang on. Let us think outside of the box here. Okay, so the really cool thing, and one of the reasons I want to show you this, but he was keeping so nice and still when he was cold, is, what is that? Oh, that's the 0.8 millimeters. Okay, hang on. Oh, okay. I think this is going to take a while to get that, but he's got the most incredible little parasites that are all over his body, and they were really, really busy. But while he's in this position, I'm going to have to move it around a little bit to find them. So while we do that, let's go say hello to Madam McCurdy.
Hello, Jamie. How are you?
Madam McCurdy.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Madam McCurdy.
Good. Good morning, everybody, and good morning to the beetle wrangler Brent as well. I hope you managed to get that thing from the Coleoptera family under control. They can be a bit rowdy sometimes, don't you think? I know exactly your pain. And as I said, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is my dear friend Craig. And well, we're out searching for all sorts of wonderful things this morning. I had a quick look at a den that James had said he'd seen some hyenas, but sadly there's nothing happening there today. It's very, very quiet, so they've obviously found another little spot to keep them nice and warm. There is, as normal, there are lots of hyena tracks that have sort of been washed away by the rain going up and down this road. This is no surprise to us. We often see them around here. But what we'll do, we'll go and check Twin Dams quickly, Karula's favorite spot. I'm not sure where she disappeared to after yesterday morning's sunrise safari. So we'll just have a quick look around there, and then if we don't come right, then we might go check. And, oh, sorry, I'm just trying to work out who's talking to me, if it's a Game Drive radio or if it's Louise. And anyway, so we're heading down that way, and if we don't get successful there, that's not a problem. We'll keep on searching, and we'll go and check to see if our dear friend the Warthog is in his burrow, because I reckon after last night's rain, he must have gone back. I don't know where he could have gone, or found another little burrow so quickly. I do want to just confirm these tracks. Now, I'm not going to show you because you're going to struggle very much to see what they are. I'm even going to struggle to see what they are. But I just want to make sure that there are no big cats that have come up walking here. Actually, I can't even tell you what they are because they look like nothing. They've been completely washed away. They're like just little bits of sand that have been kicked, but it looks like a biggish footprint. I suspect it'll most likely be the hyenas. Oh my goodness, Jamie is on a roll this morning. It seems as though she's beating us all at the mammal game. So let's go across to Madam Patterson and her elephant.
I'm sorry, everybody. Just give me 1 second. We have indeed beaten everybody at the mammal challenge, although, to be honest, it would have been relatively tricky. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Brent. He took over for me. It would have been relatively tricky to have missed this particular mammal in the form of a large bull who I have a funny suspicion might be in must. And the reason I say that is I just got a waft of his scent. And he's also just got that sort of lumbering look about him, as if to say to us, I am in the middle of the road, and I'm going to continue to be in the middle of the road, and you will just... No, he's definitely in must. Just got the full whiff of it. He's on his way to visit Brent in the tent, which has a very allo-allo-esque sound or ring about it. Hello, boy. There's the one animal you can track on this sort of morning. They actually leave tracks. And there we go. Hello, mister. Generally, bulls, or all elephants actually, prefer it if you approach at a slightly different angle rather than driving up behind them. And you'll often find, if you have a look at some of the Kruger videos of the elephants that have become really very upset with various tourists, you'll see quite a few times it's because the person has approached right up their bottom, which they really don't appreciate. So we'll give him plenty of room until he decides to turn and perhaps start feeding. Look at that lumber. And whilst he looks like he's moving unbelievably slowly, he is very rapidly covering ground. It's a slow walk for him, but when your legs are that long and when you're that massive, even a slow walk translates into quite a rapid movement elsewhere. He's a massive boy. There are worse traffic jams to be stuck in on a Thursday morning? Yes, Thursday morning. A perfect way to start off our safari. And I would tell you all about the bird sounds, but I think, to be quite honest, in order to hear them, all you'd hear would be the pitter-patter of rain on our roof. And what may or may not be thunder. Surely not. Can't be. We don't get thunder after 2 days of solid drizzle. There we go. Hey, big boy. You're going to go visit Brent? Yes? Lovely old bull. Quite short tusks, but it looks as though he's actually broken them, because they're quite thick at the base. He is not a young bull elephant. Of course, you can't judge an elephant's age by the size of the tusks themselves, because each one is different. Each individual has different growth rates of their tusks. But generally, when you see a bull with thick tusks, it means that they are older than 30. They're starting to get to that point where the laying of ivory happens much more rapidly than it did, bless you, Liam, than it did in their early lives. This rain is making us all sneeze. Taylor's coughing, Liam's sneezing. Mister, I do hope you haven't walked all over my lion tracks. Not that I'd see them anyway, because it was from last night and it proceeded to rain all evening. What did Brent say, do? About how much rain the rain gauge had picked up? About 5. 10. So then from the beginning of yesterday to today, we've probably had about 30 mils of rain, which is wonderful news. And hopefully at some point our journey this morning will take us past some of the dams and we'll be able to have a look at how much they've been topped up. Oh, off he goes. Hey, big boy. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@wildearth.tv. You can see the wind is blowing. It's a chilly morning out here. I believe it is 20 degrees centigrade, which is 68 in Fahrenheit, which I realize for some of you are having a quiet chuckle because that's not chilly for you at all. It's for us in the middle of summer. I'm going to let him move up along this road and then we'll try and encounter him a little bit further around. So we'll try and go around. Alright, let's go to Brent in the tent.
Well, we decided to show you what is actually going on at the moment. That little green circle is us. And as you can see, there's a bit more weather blowing in off the Indian Ocean from Mozambique. And it looks like we're probably going to get rain or drizzle. Not as much as yesterday. This is what was over us yesterday, that dark purple patch there. So we're going to probably get rain, not as much as yesterday, but still nice soaking rain. It isn't pouring down, it isn't massive thunderstorms. Now, this rhino beetle is being quite challenging, but we shall try anyway. And unfortunately, I can't see the little parasites at the moment, but you can see. Let me just try and move him around. Boom, there we go. No, other way. No, other way. Oh, other way. Okay, there we go. At least we can see his head there. Let me just try. Oh, my hand blocks the light. Okay, well, we weren't quite finished there, but here we go. So I've just got my torch that'll add light from it. Oh, no, don't run away, you little... There we go. Brian's going to hold the torch for me so I can get him. There we go. Isn't that nice? But if he keeps moving, he does make it quite challenging. Shame. I think, you know what, we've had a good look at him. And you know what, I'm going to try to find a dead dung beetle. There's plenty of them around. So while he is still fresh and on the way, thank you for holding the torch, Brian. While he is still fresh on the way, I think he's definitely got some poo he wants to look for. But how cool is that horn? Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Now he's playing dead, but if we put him on the ground, I think he'll take off. Now, I just want to make sure no lions out here. I don't think there are. I think they've moved off, possibly to the north. And here we go. Let's release. Go find some elephant poo. There's an elephant just up the road, mister. He will leave you much droppings. There we go. Off he goes. Oh, there's an upset elephant up the road. It was a big roar, that one. But no sign of the lions just yet. Yeah. Back to our tent. Now, the nice thing about being in the tent is I still feel like I've got my finger on all the pulses, and I'm trying to remember who sent it. I was looking through the Twitter, and there was a question. There we go, from Marco or Siberia Zumi. Brent was looking. I was looking at a tree list of the Kruger and found something called rhino coffee. Now, rhino coffee is in fact not coffee at all. It is a relative of the jasmine family. It's called Crassia floribunda. Now, the reason it's called rhino coffee is rhinos are really after the seeds and the fruits, which are also eaten by humans. So there we go. You're wondering about rhino coffee. It's a small shrub called Crassia floribunda, and it is quite well liked by birds, people, monkeys, baboons, and of course black rhino. So that's where the term rhino coffee comes from. I don't think it gives them the same kick as caffeine gives to us, but there we go. That is what that is. Okay, now I wonder where all the animals are. Now, of course, as Jamie and Taylor have explained today, on weather like this, it's incredibly difficult to be able to track, and it does make one's life very difficult. So hopefully their skills will be on point, and Queen Karula or the Nkuhumas are going to show up. Now, what are we going to look at next, Brian? And we've looked at the rhino coffee. We've looked at the beetle. What else could we get? I think we should play the kudu game. Now, for those of you who don't know what the kudu game is, we take our ears, push them forward with one's hands, and we can hear one grey-headed bushshrike, and that's about it. So I was hoping to help Jamie in her hunt for the lions by hearing that wonderful and those Nkuhuma girls were very hungry last night, so maybe they've had some success. Let's go see.
Well, hopefully they did manage to catch something last night. Brent's been playing the kudu game, and I think if he turned in our direction, he would have heard us quietly chugging past as we go very slowly. Brent's already explained how tricky tracking is. But as we've emphasized many times in the past, the weather last night was a perfect hunting weather for big cats. However, if they didn't get lucky, if they didn't manage to catch something, then there's a very good chance that in this sort of weather they are still moving. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to move on from that elephant just briefly, just to double check along this road before they have a chance to get too far away. Now, they've definitely cut north, which is one of their favorite things to do. They love hunting in this block a little bit to the west of Gallagher's shortcut. But now I cannot see a single track on this road, so I think they've gone off. Pori, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that, Louise. Was it one of the weirder animals? Rarer. There we go. Rarer animals, specifically cat families. Sorry about that. I thought you said it was a bit of an odd question. I was going to say they were all a bit weird at times. They're cats. That's half the fun. So some of the rarer cats, one of the big ones, we actually had a long discussion about this yesterday on our sunrise safari whilst I was in the tent. So there's something called a black-footed or a small spotted cat that is very rare. They don't occur in this area. They're more towards the slightly more arid areas of South Africa. I've never seen a small spotted cat. It is on my checklist of South African mammals that I have yet to see. So a small spotted cat is rare. We actually ended up talking about the golden cat, the African golden cat, which is related to the caracal. That doesn't occur in southern Africa, but again, on my list of things I want to see. And then actually, out here, caracals. The caracals are not that rare in general, but I've never seen one here, and as far as I know, it's a very almost brick red cat with black tufts sticking out of the top of its ears. It's quite a small cat. It's about 12 kilograms, 25 pounds. Powerful cats, very powerful cats. I actually knew somebody once with a pet, not a pet caracal, raised by a well-meaning but unknowing farmer. He fed her the wrong food when she was a kitten, and as a result her bone structure and her teeth weren't very full. She had a calcium deficiency, so her teeth, all of her canines fell out. And in the case of her brother, he actually died because his bones were so brittle. He jumped off a table and he died as a result of just that small drop, and which of course is not normal. Caracals are extraordinary jumpers. But Miss Muppet was a very interesting lesson in why it's impossible to keep wild animals in pets, because she actually ended up becoming very dangerous. Which you might think, well, that sounds ridiculous for a 24, 25 pound cat. If you ever meet a caracal, I promise you'll understand, because whilst she might not have had canine teeth, she did have very sharp claws and very powerful legs, and she started attacking anybody that she wasn't immediately attached to. Oh, look at the little ones. Morning, little ones. You wouldn't want to meet a caracal, would you? Definitely not. Young crested Franklin, tottering along behind Mum. Jog, 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 jog. Sweet. It's a nice surprise. That is the wonderful thing about this time of year. You see all sorts of baby birds. What is that? Sorry, hold on 1 second. Oh, it's just a funny piece of wood. Now, while we look at our baby Franklins ahead of us, and having spoken about the various rarer cats, Jacob in Texas, welcome as always. Jacob, you want to know what is the largest pride of lions in Africa? That is a very, very good question. Unfortunately, I think it's a question that doesn't have an immediate answer, just because numbers of lion prides are constantly in flux. Sometimes they separate and come back together again. You could be looking at numbers of easily 40 lions. I know I've heard many tales of the mountain pride towards the eastern edge of sorry, I'm just having a chuckle. One of the guides asking about Boris. Was it Boris? Yes, it was Boris. One of the guides is asking about Boris. No, the eastern edge of Kruger is where the mountain pride came from. I've heard stories of lion prides up to 40. I've never been lucky enough to see it. I think the largest pride I've ever seen was a pride of about 20. Little ones, it's okay. Let us go across to Taylor and see whether she's seen any massive lion prides.
Up on Hosgile tracks around here at Twin Dams. It seems as though they've come in from the south, and then they were running up and down on the fire break, and now completely lose them. So I'm just checking all around here at the moment, because you know what these little guys are like, is that they are so sneaky. Be anywhere. This little downpour that we had just now, the rain could have chased them under a little thicket, and you've seen it a couple of times before where they become completely invisible in this long grass. Let's just have a quick look here. I'm actually going to go around. I'm going to check that jackalberry down there, because that's one of their favorite places to play. They're not swimming in the pans like they normally are. I think it might be a bit too chilly for them. Hope we get lucky over here. Aubrey is coming to help though as well, which will make it much easier for us, because it just means that more people can check more areas at once. Okay, let's check these jackberries. Nothing in this one. And down here as well. Check for tracks. See, now it's hard. Now you gotta look everywhere, in the trees, on the ground, in the riverbed, the waterside. Brain is very busy this morning. Right, no. Now, if you have just joined us, welcome, of course, and this is a live safari. It's an interactive safari, so if you want to send us any questions to myself, Jamie, or Brent, you're more than welcome to. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter with all of your questions, or questions at WildEarthTV is an email address that you can send them to. Goodness gracious, where have you gone, guys? These little sneaky cubs. See, the Egyptian geese, which are over there, are not making any noise. You might be able to see them just coming down the dam wall. Our favorite pair that seem to be here all the time. They were swimming around when we first got here, but they haven't made any alarm calls, and they'd be the first ones if there was leopards about. They would definitely be squawking away, letting everybody know, and so would the lapwings. The blacksmith lapwings would be doing the same thing. So it's very, very quiet here. I might just go and quickly check a little bit further up. Maybe go check Shibamo and Treehouse Dam, those areas. We've got a bit of a way to drive, but let's pop back across to Brent and his tent.
Well, Jamie was talking about all the little cats, so I decided, since I have the world at my fingertips here in the tent, I would show you, just in case some of you weren't sure. So, caracal, there's the caracal that Jamie was talking about. Now, of course, Jamie was telling you about Miss Muppet. I knew another caracal called Misty, who was actually brought up and then released. But Misty only liked my friend Russell, who raised her. And if any of us walked past, Misty used to explode out of the bushes and absolutely rip our legs apart. Now, there is a there's one cat we see here from time to time, and they're incredible jumpers. They mostly hunt birds. So there's an amazing photograph of a serval leaping through the air. Now, in certain parts of Africa, in Gabon and Kenya, actually, specifically, you get something very, very cool, and it's called a Menalistic serval. Now, there's a camera trap photograph from Gabon. I was unlucky. I didn't see those while I was living up there, but they're generally further to the south. So there we go, a Menalistic serval from Gabon, but they also occur in the Aberdare mountain range in Kenya. Now, Jamie spoke about the African golden cat being on her bucket list. That is on my bucket list, and I spent a long time living where they live. We caught them on camera traps, but unfortunately I never actually got to see one in person. What's your head, Brian? I think there's actually a bet going on Twitter about how many times the killer bees are going to hit their head this morning in the tent. Well, I can tell you now it's three so far. And the African golden cat is quite interesting. So it actually can change color. So there's the golden color. Now, they're a bit bigger than a caracal, probably same size to a little bit bigger. And you can see that really thick forest undergrowth that they live in. So this is also a camera trap shot from Gabon. And they also have a menalistic phase, but it's not true menalism because it's sort of more grey, and they actually can change colour throughout their life. So there's a young golden cat, still with the dark coloration, also from Gabon. So fascinating little creatures. Now, they can kill stuff up to the size of duikers and monkeys they hunt, but mostly they live off forest birds that live on the ground. So your spur fowls that live in the forest, rugots, rail, they actually catch fish, terrapins, dwarf crocodiles. They have a very varied diet, and it obviously suits their lifestyle in the rainforest. Now, the rainforest, despite what people think, is a much harder place to live than the African savanna. So if we go look out here a little bit, quickly, and we have a look. The most important thing we see here, why it's much easier for lots of animals to live in the savanna than it is in the rainforest, is grass. So grass is able to hold a multitude of life, from birds to antelope, and the bigger your antelope or bovidae family is, the bigger your predators get. So the biggest predator in the African rainforest is, of course, the leopard, and their physical size, the leopards are smaller than the leopards we'd get here in the Sabi Sands. Now, everyone thinks of rainforests as these incredible lush places that are full alive. My goodness, that was horrible English. That are full of life, and that they are. But a lot of that life is minuscule. In the leaf litter, the insects, the arthropods, the millipedes, things like that, and obviously incredible birds. But you do not have birds like we've got that are almost always everywhere. The birds travel in parties, and you can walk kilometers without even hearing or seeing a bird, hearing or seeing a monkey. The most common thing there is a tiny little blue duiker, but it is an incredible ecosystem. Now, to tell you how difficult it is, if you take the mountain gorillas of Rwanda and Uganda and Congo that live on those mountain slopes, which are a really awesome, high nutrient-rich area. Your average mountain gorilla family has a territory of only about 400 hectares, which is about 800 acres. Your average lowland gorilla territory has your average lowland gorilla territory is about 10,000 to 15,000 acres. They have to travel such distance between fruiting trees, between wild asparagus and wild ginger, that it isn't really great for them to live. So they've got a much bigger territory, and the elephants also wander much bigger distances in those type of areas. So it's quite interesting when you look at it. It's a very different dynamic, and of course the butterflies and the bugs are absolutely astounding, and a lot of snakes as well, and small rodents, and also some of them are probably one of the strangest animals I've encountered in my life. And actually, while I have my finger on the pulse, I like saying that, or maybe I should stop saying that. There is the weirdest creature in the world. Now, I have told you to Google it before, but for those who haven't, it is a cross between a duiker and a pig and a leopard. That makes any sense? Is that the best question? That is called a water chevrotain. So it's neither antelope nor pig nor carnivore. It is an omnivore. It hunts birds, and I'm just trying to find a picture where its canines are showing. And for a little creature like that, and I had the most awesome one that became habituated to me while I was living in Gabon, and it would literally come 2 meters from me. Now I just want to find a picture of one with its canines showing. Now they have these incredible long canines, and the other very strange thing about them is that they, there we go, it's not the best picture, but you can just see, it looks like a camera trap picture. Look at that canine, look at that canine. So, and they're very small, and they actually sort of look more like, they run like rabbits. Now, their territorial display, or not display, the movements are very unique. So you will have basically set up almost exactly the same as a leopard or a solitary predator. You will have one male chevrotain that has up to 4 or 5 female chevrotains in his area, and he marches and scent marks and fights with the others. So it's a very similar setup to a carnivore. They eat fruit, they eat millipedes, they eat insects, they eat birds. They eat very few leaves and stuff, but they do eat some vegetation. But they are really weird looking animals, and one of the biggest, they're not rare yet, but they're becoming more and more uncommon closer to human habitation, because they become so relaxed. When you're around, it took us about 5 days, and this thing was walking between us in our camp. But they are very, very cool animals, the water chevrotain. Okay, so enough natting on about strange creatures in faraway places. Let's go see how Jamie's search for the Nkuhuma ladies is going.
I think it sounds wonderful to chat about strange creatures in faraway lands, especially when our less strange creatures in our immediate vicinity are completely absent. There is not a single track on the road anywhere. I cannot find. I know where they went, but I don't know if they're still in that block or if they've moved off. It is just so wet, and it's getting wetter. The rain is now pouring once again. I'm trying to go quite slowly so that we don't blow it all into the vehicle. Drizzle once again. The roads are slippery, but not quite slippery enough for there to be an imprint in the mud, although this is a good spot to pick up on lion tracks. My thinking is that if those lionesses did catch something last night, one of them has got to go back and fetch the cubs. So I figured, in the absence of any kind of tracks indicating where they've gone, perhaps it might be worth going back to where they were and trying to follow them or backtrack them from there. That's the theory. But the more it rains, the harder it gets, but that's okay, because it's not just about tracking the big cats, even though we concentrate a little bit on that first thing in the morning. There's all sorts of, in theory, there's all sorts of fantastic things for you to see out here in the driving rain. It's too cold for frogs though, which is unfortunate. No frogs. I haven't seen a tortoise yet. It's a little bit chilly actually for a lot of the reptile species as well. And quite slippery. And of course we have the added disadvantage that unless we bump into something on a road, we actually probably can't go off-roading for them. Depending upon where they are, it's at that point now where there's been enough rain that we shouldn't really go off-road without causing some damage. And there's also certain roads we can't drive on. I've just driven past one, that's Mvubu Road. And the reason that those sorts of roads get closed is you can actually do some damage to the environment, and also you can wreck the roads to the point that for the next 5 months afterwards, when you're trying to drive on them, you're sort of doing this. The African massage, as I think one of our recent guides called it. Zebra tracks everywhere, but not a stripy horse in sight. What ran across here? Zebra ran across here. Zebra would be a good alternative meal to buffalo, especially for 3 lioness. You can see that they were running just from the way in which their hooves, oh gosh, trying to show you this is actually going to be quite tricky. The way in which their hooves have dug into the soil, not so much there, but there you've got that flick of dirt. That's almost an instant indication that something's gone sprinting across the road and flung back soil or the dirt in the road. But that could be just a zebra that got left behind and is running to catch up. Interesting from Jay Brady, good morning to you. Up until recently we've seen the cubs accompanying the adults all of the time. Jay Brady asked, well, do they always accompany the hunts, or can they not keep up with the lionesses? They are able to keep up with the lionesses now. That's not to say that they're not a hindrance when it comes to hunting. And for the last few months we've been seeing them following the lionesses. But that isn't to say that the lionesses won't, which is exactly what they've done now. They won't still leave them behind in a safe place, of which Gari Cutline is one. It's one of the places that those cubs are most familiar with, in order to go off and hunt without running the risk of the cubs messing it up. We've already seen the Nkuhuma cubs participating, in inverted commas, participating in the hunt with a young buffalo. I think that was Taylor's sighting. And the Nkuhuma cubs jumping on the back, practicing their technique to try and help the adults take it down. And it's a balancing act for the lionesses, because on the one hand those cubs need to learn how to do such things. On the other hand, they're actually quite bad at it in the beginning. It's not their fault, it makes sense. And it might just be that the lionesses are hungry enough that they decide, I've got their track. Try and show you how invisible they are. Alright, those were very conveniently in a soft patch of sand. Those are the lion's tracks. And from what I can see, which isn't very much, I think it's the lioness coming back to fetch the cubs. These look like cub tracks. Let me show you a bit further on exactly how invisible these tracks are. So let's find a spot where they've gone off the middle of the road. Let's just check here. Yeah, up and down. They've been stepped on by our zebra that we were tracking earlier. Right, these lion tracks are still on the road. Now have a look. Now see if you can see them. Invisible. So I've just picked up on these tracks now. How long have I been missing them for? I don't think that long, because I think I would have picked up on them in the mud back there. Now where have they gone? Okay. Now, of course, the Nkuhuma's favorite food up until recently was buffalo. Alice, I haven't seen a buffalo in probably about a month. That's not to say there aren't any buffalo though. Every now and again I do see tracks of lone dugger boys. I haven't seen a buffalo herd on Djuma in a long time, but the solitary males I've seen 1 or 2. Oh, sorry, I was just listening to Aubrey on the Game Drive channel. Oh, up and down. What was I talking about? I was talking about something of vital importance. Oh yes, buffalo. Yes, Herbie and I had this discussion talking about the fact that it's not the lion, it's not the buffalo that you don't see that gets you, and you should be very careful about falling into the trap of thinking that there aren't any. Now, there are still buffalo around, however, there have been few enough to actually keep the Nkuhumas away from us. I'm going to continue concentrating on much fresher. So while I go searching, let's jump back on board, I think with Taylor, might be Brent.
So we unfortunately lost those tracks, and when I say lost, I mean that Hosana and Shongile did a sneaky and they crossed in from the south, then they crossed back south again. They're obviously looking for Mother Dearest, or they're playing about, because their tracks were all over the Twin Dams area, so that's a little bit of a pity. However, we have just come off Cheetah cut line and we're going down a little sneaky road towards the big termite mound, where there could be either a warthog or a hyena or just a fly like yesterday. Let's hope no flies and there'll actually be an animal inside of that mound, but we'll go and check now. And just starting to see the tip of the termite mound. Like we did yesterday, we must sneak up to it as to not startle whatever could be in there. We don't want them to come darting out of their burrow. Preferred if they would stay nice and dry. We'll just approach very slowly. What? No, I don't see anything just yet. I don't see a peeping head. Oh, yay, he's here. Hello, Warty. Our friend the Warthog's here. I'll show you now. I'm just going to try and very quietly position the vehicle so that you can all see. Hello, Warthog. Now, I'm not going to go too much further, but if you have a look inside that hole, you should see a tusk. It's almost like VM yesterday, when he was completely invisible behind Yanni as he was driving towards us from Cheetah Plains, but I'm glad, Cheetah Cut Line, sorry. I'm glad that our friend the Warthog is back in its burrow. And it's it's how was that little tongue twister this morning? I was trying to say that I'm happy that he has gone back into his burrow, and I believe that Kofta was actually wondering if the Warthog was here. Well, yes, here he is, because we checked late last night, actually just before the sun was about to go down, and it was, well, very empty. We just had the fly. It was quite sad, so perhaps he was out catching up on some feeding that he'd missed during the day while it was pouring with rain. Or I'm not sure, maybe he was just out on having a good party, but he's back. Both ears pricked towards us, watching us very, very carefully. Look at that. And our fly is still here too. Looks like the fly's got a couple more friends though today. Well, that's nice too. So everybody's happy. Warthog's warm. Flies has got friends. The fly has got friends, sorry. And, well, everybody's happy. It must be lovely and cozy in there, because we all know how termite mounds emit a lot of heat. Whether this one is active anymore, I'm not too certain. Perhaps right at the bottom of the mound, but I'm sure it must be a lovely spot to snuggle up in. I'd be a bit nervous though if I got stuck out in the wild. I don't know if I'd use one of these holes, because can you imagine cuddling up in something like that, and you know you're just trying to keep out of the harsh conditions, and then a leopard comes by and says, "Oh, hello, is anybody home?" And we know what Anderson's like when he pulls warthogs out of a burrow. I think he'd be able to pull us out very easily. And Bill, speaking about termite mounds, you were wondering how long it would take for a termite mound to get to this size. Well, it depends. It can take a number of years, because remember, what you're looking at is only a third. 2/3 is actually below the surface of the earth. So they start developing the mound at the bottom, and then once they've got their colony all sorted and they've got enough workers and soldiers, then, well, I suppose they start pushing up through the surface of the earth, and building it higher and higher. I reckon something like this, like I said, I don't think it is active anymore, the top part of the mound, because of, well, there's a warthog living in half of it, and also all of the grass that's covering this termite mound now. That's normally an indication that it's not active. So I would probably say that this one probably got to about maybe between 20 and 30 years old. I don't think it was a particularly old one, because some of them, which we've seen, which are enormous, which are, maybe 12 feet in height, quite very easily, massive from, we've seen them, us climbing up them, well, especially me struggling to climb up and go down the termite mounds. And those ones, I reckon, are probably well over 50 years. It takes a long time. So Warthog, you were very lucky. You were living in a fantastic palace that was built by the tiniest creatures. I can't believe that something so small can create something so big that this big boar can now utilize as his home. It's lovely. Poor Gwen, though. I wonder where she's seeking refuge these days. Now, we were actually chatting about this yesterday, about the warthog's warts, and Claire, you were wondering this morning if what they were made of. Now, I suspect that they're most likely made from cartilage, but what it would be nice is that maybe Brent, when you head back to the tent, because Brent has got a warthog skull, so perhaps he can show you on the warthog exactly where they are, and maybe he can give us further information as to what they're made from. But I suspect it's cartilage, very much like the ear. They're quite hard, or they're very tough. Have you ever touched one before? And very prickly hair on their face. But look at him, he's like an old man. All his hair is starting to go grey now. And like I said, yesterday I saw him come out. He's got a big pot belly. He's definitely not lacking food at the moment. He's just shuffling around a little bit. Old boy, worn tusks. He's seen many, many, many things. I think he's escaped the claws of leopards quite a few times. Now, as you know, most of you, that especially if you've been watching for a long time, you'll see that warthogs will often reverse, well, they normally reverse into a burrow, and you're wondering, do they always have to go backwards? Well, the little piglets don't. The little piglets go whichever way they do because they're so small. And I suppose that would depend on the size of the burrow. If it was a massive burrow inside there that they were able to turn around easily, then I'm sure that they would go in head first, because they'd be able to turn around and still face the burrow with the entrance, with, of course, their tusks. Otherwise, I think it's essential that they go. And you can see it's a tight fit. It's not a big hole. When that warthog comes out, his back is scraping just touching the top of the entrance of that burrow over there. So he's got to go in backwards. I don't think there's too much room in there. I don't even think you'd fit another warthog. You'd probably fit that. In there even, you could probably fit a sow, and all her little piglets would probably live comfortably. But him, I think that's the perfect size for him. He's a big warthog. He really is an enormous one. He probably weighs somewhere along the lines of maybe close to 150 pounds. Like I said, he came out. He is a big boy. And you'll honestly be surprised as to the size of these warthogs. I mean, I'm sure you've seen footage of leopards struggling to take down warthogs. I've watched warthogs chasing leopards away. And I think the greatest storyteller that we have here on Safari Live, Brent Leo Smith, is in the tent. And I'm sure he's got a couple of stories to share about his warthog and leopard experiences.
Hello. So Taylor was talking about the warts of the warthog. Of course, she was 100% correct. They are indeed cartilage or gristle. Oh, sorry, I'm still listening to the Game Drive radio, so I like to know what's going on. I'm a nosy character. So the first set of warts is up just below the eye up here, and then the second one would be down there. And you can see there's no protrusion sticking out of the skull. So that is why Taylor's 100% right. It is definitely made out of cartilage. Okay. Now, Taylor was saying I should regale you with some of the stories of warthogs and leopards. Now, I have actually been lucky enough to only 3 times so far for the killer bees. We're now more conscious since you guys are counting how many times we hit our heads. So one of the most amazing ones was the female leopard I spent a lot of time with in the south. And during the piglet season, she was a piglet supremist. And shame, I watched one female warthog lose 5 babies in the space of 2 days. Literally, this leopard would run in, grab a piglet, the mother would chase her, she would just jump up a gory bush, munch, 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 walk after them, grab another piglet, and that happened for about 3 years. That female warthog never produced a piglet because that particular leopard was so good at hunting piglets. But quickly across to Jamie.
Alrighty, sorry to rush you across, but we have been successful, even on this revolting tracking morning, in tracking down the Nkuhumas, but unfortunately, right next to the boundary of our traverse area. They're about to disappear onto Torchwood. I just thought we'd rush forward. I spotted them quite far back, which is why I'm racing along, but you're about to see them in the middle of the road. Phew! Oh, they're going the other way. This is so weird. These lines have been all over the place. Oh, this is cool. They're going to come right past us. There we go. Hello, ladies. This is good. This is a good direction. I don't want to push them. They've been a bit skittish, so I don't want to make them feel as though they have to go into Buffelshoek. So let's just sit here quietly. Pulled off at the side of the road. Hello, ladies. 1, 2, 3. Adult lionesses. They're calling. Still looking for the missing 2. Hello, gangly cubs. Look at you. There's just one call. I don't think you're going to be able to hear it. Aubrey, Mike, these Inyala are actually mobile west now along Buffelshoek cut line. They're just at the Insingo sign. Stopping to have a quick drink. At a puddle. Look at this. Look at all get together. This is of course why we don't really bother too much with the water holes at this sort of time of year in this sort of weather, because there are just puddles everywhere. Look at your full bellies. What have you been eating last night? So they obviously did catch something last night, most definitely, judging by the waddle to the little lion cub steps. Oh. Isn't it incredible how much they've grown? There's the littlest female at the back. Yes. Hi guys. I've missed you. I haven't had a proper sighting with you in a really long time. This is awesome. Looking very drenched and rather bedraggled out here in the rain, and you know we have got so lucky, because instead of going east into Torchwood, they are now coming back onto Djuma. Thank you, you lot. We're very grateful. Of course, the more it rains, the better it is for them in terms of helping to get rid of that mange that they contracted. And so they're all looking much better. Still a bit scraggly, but full-bellied, healthy, and it looks as though they're recovering. Lioness is off once again, I think searching for a nice, safe spot to stall the cubs. Just see, they might be going all the way around me. They have been... The 3 of them and the cubs have been much more skittish than I've ever known them to be before. And I noticed it when we did our TV show on Monday morning. Sorry, VM's just having to wipe our windscreen there. Get rid of all of the raindrops. I noticed it on our TV show that they are jumpy. Just that little bit jumpy. And I don't know whether it's because they're missing 2 females, if it's the vague upset in the dynamics of the various males in this area, or the absence of the Birmingham boys to keep them safe. But they definitely haven't been their usual relaxed selves. Now, Miss Katie, this is a discussion that we've actually had quite regularly over the last few weeks and months. Actually, over the last few days. Miss Katie, you want to know how many prides are we aware of in Kruger? Well, Miss Katie, there's probably about, I would guess, 2,000 or so, 2,500 odd lions in Kruger, give or take. I know Brent has got a more accurate idea of numbers in the entire greater Kruger National Park area. but they're probably sitting somewhere in that region. Now we sit in one of the areas that has the highest concentration of lions. So we see one of the highest concentrations. So we see 2 prides regularly and a 3rd occasionally, and that's just in our little piece of this fantastic wilderness. So I would guess at 200, maybe slightly more, slightly less, give or take, prides in the Greater Kruger National Park. Some of them will be bigger, some of them will be smaller. There you go, the lionesses. On to Djuma. Thank you very much. Phew, what a relief. And by the way, Aubrey and I have been looking for these lions together, so he's come to join us as well in this sighting. So that's who you're seeing in the other vehicle. We're going to try and for the most part keep on the road. We'll watch the trees. There we go. Now, Michael, you want to know why have Amber Eyes and the young lioness not returned? So usually, for our new viewers, usually the Nkuhumas consist of 5 lionesses and 6 cubs. We've only got 3 lionesses here. Michael, the answer to that is because I think they're coming into estrus. That would be my suggestion, unless it's possible that it's just taking them a while to find the rest of the pride. That's also a distinctive possibility. They're roaming larger and larger areas now that the cubs are big enough to keep up. So it's not like it was when we had the Nkuhumas all to ourselves for 2 months just on Djuma in exactly the same place every day. Things have changed. The cubs have got a little bit larger, big enough now to keep up. I just want to do another head count. No, there's definitely 6. These cubs always worry me. They go wandering. There they go. I think it might be worth racing around them and just trying to catch up with them as they go along the fire break. Sure, we got so lucky. They could so easily have gone to the east. Striding forward. There's another possibility, Michael, and that's that they did meet up with them. There's a chance that they have met up with Amber Eyes and the young female, that the Amber Eyes and the young female have been with the males, and they just decided to move off on their own. So that's also a possibility. We don't know for absolute certain exactly everything that happens in the lives of these animals. Sorry, I'm trying to protect everything from the rain. So, yes, it's decidedly possible that they did meet up. Now, Michelle, you want to know if the survival rates of these cubs is high now that they've reached this age. It's still too uncertain to tell. And the reason I say that is because you've got to be very careful, even when you've got a good grasp of the lion dynamics and the various male coalitions in an area. There is still a possibility that a male coalition could come in and claim this area as their own. They could come unexpectedly from another area, and the Birmingham boys might not be around to defend the cubs. And if that does happen, then the lionesses just don't stand a chance in terms of defending them, especially if it's a coalition of multiple males. So it's hard to say for absolute certain. So far they've done a very good job. They've recovered beautifully from the mange. I'm just going round, by the way. And they've recovered from their white muscle disease, so things are looking really positive for them. And I'm hopeful because the Birmingham boys are young males. They've only just recently established themselves, so they might be reluctant to relinquish any kind of a hold. Just want to see if they're still going along this road. Sorry, I'm going to keep racing. We're going to catch up with them on the other side. Just to try and avoid off-roading as much as possible. Aubrey's behind them, so we're not going to lose them. Alright, while I work my way around to catch up with these lions, let's jump back in to the nice relative comfort, even if it is a bit small, of the tent.
to avoid whacking my head, I've decided to take a seat. So, unlucky for Brian, he's still in the danger zone. Still only 3 head knocks so far this morning. But how wonderful, the Nkuhumas are back. And as Jamie was saying, I noticed it as well when I saw them briefly on the boundary. They are a bit jumpy at the moment. Now, I personally think it's to do with some of the male line dynamics that are happening at the moment. So those southern Matimbas came through. The Majingalans are up in the west, so you can hear them just to the west of Arathusa. And also 2 or 3 young unknown males popped up in the west as well. There we go. I just turned on the game drive radio. There we go. So there is some interesting dynamics going on. And of course, we never know what's happening to the east of us. And of course, being in one of the densest lion concentrations in Africa, one of the densest of the dense is further to the east of us, around Satara in the Kruger National Park, on those basalt floodplains there, or not floodplains, basalt plains, and there's so many lions. There's some mega prides there, 30 plus lions. So of course they are often splinter, break up, and they often have lots of young males. So there could be some more moving in from the east. The Birmingham seem to have been concentrating on the east for the last little while, so maybe there's some competition coming in from there. Now, that is the one thing about having all these lions in this area, that it is constantly in flux. I still think the Birminghams will hang on for a little bit longer unless they get really unlucky and another big coalition of guys around 4 or 5 years old arrive either from the north or from the east. I don't think they got any competition from the west. From the south, it's always possible as well, but I think from them, the 2 biggest possible problems are either from the north, so coming from the Manuleti through the Timbavati, or from the Kruger itself straight through. So it is going to be fascinating to watch what happens. But let's see, Jamie's caught up with the lions. Let's go have a look.
I completely agree with Brent. I think that is one of the explanations as to why they are jumpy. Look at the little one at the back with its round belly. They're all just bellies with legs at the moment, so whatever their mums managed to catch, it has kept them well fed and now quite thirsty. Stopping once again, obviously that puddle didn't suffice, stopping once again to have a drink and changing direction, it seems, once again as well. There go the 2 lionesses off east this time. Stop! Wait, don't go that way. Please don't go that way, come this way. That was the plan. Oh, maybe they just wanted to go to this pan for a drink. The disadvantage, of course, of drinking out of small puddles is they tend to be quite muddy, whereas some of the larger pans, the water is slightly cleaner, slightly less gritty. And here we go again, back in the opposite direction. Cubs looking much, much healthier than the last time I saw them, if only a bit gangly, going through that growth spurt time. Hard to believe these are the same tiny little fuzzballs that we looked at. When was it? When were those? I can't even remember now when these cubs were born. The first set must have been about June last year. July. There they go. A parade of lionesses and cubs bumbling at the back. David, slightly complex question as we watch our lionesses on alert. You want to know if lionesses will mate away from the males in order to protect the cubs or keep them from danger. Sometimes that will occur, particularly when a lioness has come into false estrus to try and distract the males from the cubs. And that's usually during a coalition takeover or territorial takeover. But generally, what we've seen with the Nkuhumas and what I've seen in the past is that lionesses aren't too bothered. The same members of the pride are not too bothered about having the male lions near them or near the cubs while they are in estrus or in heat. What does sometimes happen, though, is if there's any sign of aggression, if the male lions are fighting over a female in estrus, then the lionesses will immediately take the cubs away and shepherd them to safety and move them further away from the mating pair or the fighting animals. So that does often happen, particularly when the cubs are quite young. They're going now This might be a bit tricky. This is not an easy block that they've just moved into. So we're going to focus closely on following them where they go. I don't know what they ate last night. Something that made them particularly full, but something they finished. Could be a zebra. Who knows? But speaking of zebra, that is what Taylor's found for you.
I know, can you believe it? I don't know when I last saw a zebra around. It's definitely been a couple of weeks, but how wonderful. We've managed to pick up on 3. The third one is hiding out of view just behind some of the canvas that's protecting all of our lovely equipment from the rain. But it's not only the zebra here. There's actually a bachelor herd of inyala just to the right of them. There's about 4 of them, and they're looking lovely, and they're quite happily feeding with each other this morning. They've come out of the drainage system where they would have kept nice and warm away from the chilly wind that was out and about. I can tell you it was cold here last night. We were all wrapped up in our duvets, and I'm sure that these lovely antelope and the zebra would have done, the best that they could have done while they've been out here. But isn't he impressive? Look at the size of their horns. They are really, really, really lovely boys, especially that one. He is very, very big, but all wet and a bit miserable this morning. But I suppose you can't let that stop you first thing as the day has started. Otherwise you'll go hungry. So I suppose they need to eat. And Craig was actually watching the zebra very closely just a moment ago, and he'd noticed that the zebra are constantly twitching. And I'm sure that you can see that too. Tails swatting. And like we saw with the warthog, there were a couple of insects and things flying around. And now that the rain has let off, it's just a very, very faint drizzle. I'm sure that they're all biting these poor zebra. Hello, guys. Is that a tick on that one's eye? Can you see that, Craig? Looks like it. No, it's not. It's a spot. That's actually a beautiful little spot that it has got. It made it look like it was a tick of some sort. And it's just so nice to see these zebra in green grass for a change. They're looking lovely and healthy, nice and fat, in the greatest condition. And they're not too afraid of us this morning either, which is really nice. I always find that with the smaller animals like zebra, impala, inyala, they tend to move off from the vehicles. They're not quite as relaxed as what the big cats become, and like elephants become quite relaxed around the vehicles too. But these guys are a little bit more on the chilled side today, which is lovely. Thank you very much, zebra. Are you missing a friend? Because Jamie thinks that the lions have eaten a zebra, so I wonder if they are missing one. And I'm really surprised. I can't believe that Jamie picked up those lions on the eastern corner of the Buffels or Cut line. That blows my mind completely, because they've done the biggest loop. They've come around camp onto quarantine, and then they've come from that side. Remember, they came from Buffelshoek, and now they're back down that end again. But it seems as though Miss Patterson has managed to catch up with the lions again. So before they pull their very famous disappearing acts of walking into thick vegetation, let's go take another look.
And Taylor's absolutely right. We managed to catch up with them in between sort of trips through very dense vegetation, so there is a good chance that they're going to evade us in the not too distant future. However, I've only got 2 lionesses here. Oh, here we go. They're just lagging a little bit behind. I was about to say, it seems as though these 2 lionesses are striding ahead, and the third, complete with 6 cubs, is a little bit slower. I don't know. I've noticed since the Nkuhumas have reappeared on Djuma, they seem to be quite scarred. I don't know exactly what's happened. It could have just been a hunt that they got injured in, but I'm not sure. I think they've had a little bit. Some of the scratches look like injuries from claws rather than from a hoof or something like that. That could easily have been a hoof, a buffalo kicking her in the hip, which would have caused a really nasty limp initially. But I have noticed that quite a few of them are cut up. There's injuries on their elbows, on their legs. There's one with sort of 2 parallel strips that run along the front of her right front leg. Here we go. Here come the rest of them. Slinking through. And that could also account for why they're so skittish. Now, Michelle, you say that you've noticed that one lioness stays behind all of the cubs, and is this for their safety? It's to shepherd them. So here you've actually got the third lioness walking in front of the cubs, trying to get them to hurry up. And she doesn't want to get left behind by the other two, but at the same time, these little lion legs are not quite able to keep up with the strides of the adults. And there they go, wandering across. Come on, you lot. You're getting left behind. I think they're quite tired. And these lionesses have been trekking them up and down Buffelshoek cut line. And when you've got such a full belly, this amount of movement is the last thing you feel like. So, Michelle, yes, it could be that a lioness would walk behind them for safety, but really most of the time it's just to try and get them moving. Mike for Jamie. Mike, they've just crossed east, but they're not quite relaxed. Okay, I'm just going to wait for these little cubs to go. And then I'm going to shift out of the way so that Mike can come and have a look. It's alright, little one. Do it very slowly, though, because these cubs are still skittish. I don't know. It's hard. It's impossible for us to know what happened to the Nkuhumas when they were in Manuleti. There is another pride of lions in there. Oh, brilliant. The lionesses have gone flat. There is another pride of lionesses in the Manuleti, so it might have been an encounter with them. Never know. Now I'm just going to have a check of the sort of state of the soil in this area before we go off-roading after these lions. And while we do that, and while we chat to Mike, let's jump back into the tent with Brent. This rhyme will never get old.
Well, yes, Brent is still in the tent with Brian, of course, and we've still only hit our head 3 times. I think we're doing quite well.
Doing very well.
You can see this is one of the areas where there is the least road. So it's this whole corner like that. There is not a road in there. And the lions look to be heading to this very thick area at the head of a drainage line there. So that looks like a road, but it's not. It's an elephant path. A very big one, but it's not a road. So that's a very big area with no roads. So hopefully she does manage to stick with them as they go wandering through the bush. Now, we had a few questions that were coming through from, and let's just finish up about earlier. And the first one was from James, who was wondering why we see caracal so seldom. Are they outcompeted by the other cats? Not that. They just live in very low densities in this area. It's not the most ideal habitat for them. They generally prefer more grassland areas. So they are here. I know they've been seen on Arathusa before, but I haven't seen one in 2 years. I've only ever seen one in the Sabi Sands. But in areas where there's a bit more grass, less sort of woodland and thickets, you tend to find a few more caracal. And hopefully, you never know, we might see one at any time. So, and serval as well. The reason the serval aren't as predominant is also grass. They really like their grass, and so especially with long thick grass, it's easier for them to hunt rodents and birds, both those particular species. Now, Tony, oh no, who wasn't Tony? No, it was Corey. Now we're just going to try wrap up on the little cats because we got the big cats. Corey says he's got bobcats where he lives, and that's quite exciting. I've never seen a bobcat, and was wondering what is their closest relative. It will be the Canadian lynx, and the Eurasian lynx will be their closest relative, and all those small cats are far more closely related to domestic cats than they are to the big cats. The big cats have diverged quite a long time ago, millions of years ago, in fact. Fascinating stuff. And now, Tony was wondering, what are some of the other animals we get in South Africa that we don't see here? So I've just pulled up a few of the more iconic species. There's one. It is called the springbok, and it is our only gazelle. And you can see there's two males having a bit of a jostle. Very beautiful picture. And that they occur in the more arid areas to the southwest and north of us. If they had to live in an area here where there's too much water, they actually get rot foot. So they're not designed to be in areas that are wet. Now, there's two antelope that look quite similar. I'm going to start with the more common species. That is a blesbuck. Now, that also tends to live in the from middle veld up to high veld, so the high veld grasslands, and as you can see, it's a pretty one. Now, just to confuse you, there's a thing called a bontebok. Now, if you have a look carefully, there's a lot more white, and that goes straight through their head, and they've got a much more white rump. That's a bontebok, which is endemic to the Western Cape and the Fynbos area. Now, the blesbuck and bontebok have very distinct names, and it's one of the reasons the blesbuck got their name is because they keep bobbing their head like they're blessing, like a priest. Now, they're not. They've got botfly larvae that live in their nostrils, and they're trying to get rid of them all the time. So that's why that. And now, we see the blue wildebeest regularly, and another high veld species is the black wildebeest. So you can see the horns go forward, and they've got a lot more beard, and they've even got a nose beard. I think, how else would you describe that? That's a nice big male who's got a nose beard. Now, they are physically smaller than the blue wildebeest, but again, another high veld grassland species. And well, we'll save some more species for a little bit later, but while we sit in our tent and decide what other species to show you, Taylor has got the tallest mammal on Earth.
We have got the tallest one indeed, and I wonder how our dear friend Jerry the giraffe skull is doing. I suppose, well, I hope that it's kept nice and warm, but we also have a big male giraffe, and I'm hoping he's going to show his head for you. But at the moment, very much like the inyala and the zebra were, he's got his head tucked in, and he's enjoying a little bit of breakfast. And I suppose it's actually not just him that's enjoying the breakfast. If you go all the way down his very long neck, which makes him the tallest creature, he's got a couple of oxpeckers that have joined. I think there were 3 at one point. It looks like there's only 2 now. Perhaps the other one has gone to the other side. But they are happily feasting away, and they're also quite wet. And I always wonder, like, when the animals get wet that the oxpeckers are feeding upon, there's the third one that I was telling you about, does it get slippery for them? I always just find that it's amazing how they're able to hold on tight with their little clinging feet to the sides of the giraffe. It's really quite amazing. Sort of nothing really stops them. And it's amazing as well. I'm using amazing. Amazing is the word to describe oxpeckers today. How when an animal gives a good shake, that it's very, very rare that they often come off. Normally they're still hanging on by their toes. And you can hear them chatting. They're very happy this morning. Hello, giraffe. You're going on a walkabout. Don't go on too much of a walkabout, because I can't tell you how difficult it is to try and position the vehicle with the roof on when this giraffe moves, because he's so much taller than us that often we chop his head off. So we'll just see where he is going to go. He's going to the marula tree. Should we go and have a look at his legs for the meantime, Craig? Let's go. We won't be able to get a view of his head from here, but I'm going to go slightly forward so we can actually see the giraffe. And something that I noticed, because we had to come past him, we had to do a loop and then turn back down again so that we could see him nicely, is that he had an injury on his front left leg. So I'm going to see if we can get a view of this and figure out what has happened. And I don't want to startle him. Hello, boy. Like I said, we're probably not going to see his head now, but that's okay. Let's see. I don't know, Craig. I don't know if you can get that through that branch. That bush willow's a bit naughty. Hang on, let's do it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very sneakily turn in just a moment. I'm just creeping very slowly. Actually, there we go. Can you see that front left leg? You can see that there is an injury. Aha! Well done. There it is. Look at that. My goodness, that doesn't look very nice at all. It almost looks like a lion has grabbed hold of its leg and given it a few puncture marks, but of course this is not the case. I think that this injury was most likely caused from fighting with another male giraffe. And that's what happens, is that they often get calluses all down the front of their legs. And that's because when they are using their necks and they're swinging them around and, well, bashing them against each other, they also got these very powerful legs which they'll use for kicking. And like a horse, as it chops with its front legs, so does a giraffe. So you can imagine it's very easy for that skin to be taken off on the front of a giraffe's leg. So those are very common injuries to see, the lower part of the leg. They often have that. I can't roll forward, but you can even see on his back leg that he's got a couple of scratches as well. But they're not fresh, and they're quite old, so he's obviously been battling some other bulls for some cows. He's a lovely boy. He's lovely and mature. He's got a nice dark coat. He's lovely and fit, full of muscle, all down his neck, down his back, right down to his hindquarters, which is the end that you don't want to end up being at if you come across a giraffe. I wouldn't like to be kicked by a giraffe. I could imagine that would be exceptionally sore. I've seen what a car door looks like after a giraffe kicks it, and, well, it turns it into mincemeat. But look at all those ticks now as well, as we're just scanning through the trees. He just needs to turn his bum a little bit. Now we're looking now at the moment, and you can see there's very fine scratches on its body. That's almost the equivalent, is if you were to walk through a thorn tree, a couple of those thorns would hook you and just make a little scratch. That's what's happened. They're sort of very superficial wounds. They don't even bother about anything like that. Now, speaking about oxpeckers, I don't know where they've gone now, and like I said, it's difficult for us to get a view at the moment. I don't want to start the car and startle this giraffe. But Stanley, you were asking about the oxpeckers and if they would stay with the same giraffe. They typically move from point to point. So what happens, and I must apologize, the canvas that you can see in the top of the screen, that is the giraffe, but it is almost impossible to get this giraffe's head. We have to go back about 150 meters to see his whole body, and then we're around a corner and then we can't see him. So we'll just have to view him like this for the moment. And so what happens is that once the oxpeckers have been, or have sort of had their fill for the day, and just before the sun goes down, you'll actually see them moving off and leaving the mammal that they were sitting on, and they'll head to a little hidey hole. Normally they nest in holes, so you often see them in knob thorns, in sort of dead knob thorns and leadwoods and things like that. They'll have a little nest inside there, and they'll go and rest for the evening, and at first light you'll often see them flying in almost like a squadron, searching for their next target. And, well, the three of those oxpeckers that we saw earlier, they found this giraffe. Okay, let's see. Giraffe, are you going to be relaxed? Let me see what he's going to do. Okay, boy. He's just looking at us. Let's see if he's going to be kind enough. Good boy, I know we can't see you because you've hidden yourself so well. No, don't fly away. Not fly away. You're not going to fly away anyway, but the oxpeckers were moving. Okay, we'll try and catch up to him around here. Maybe we'll get a better view. Louise says she's never heard of a flying giraffe. It's all in your imagination. If you just believe, Louise, anything is possible. Hello, boy. I know I'm so sorry that we're causing you inconvenience today, but it's these roofs, and we have to have these roofs on to keep us nice and dry. So please, can you do us the favor of just standing nice and still? Now, this is going to be the fun part. Let's see if we can get his whole body. I don't know how far back I can go. Oh, look at that. You see what I mean? I just want to show you how difficult it is. Oh, we've just got his head. Well done, Craig. We've literally just got him in frame, and now as he stretches up a little more, I apologize, but it is exceptionally difficult to try and get this right, because remember, we can't off-road for giraffe or anything like that. So I've just pulled off the road slightly. As long as you've spotted the little pokey things that are protruding out of the top of this giraffe's head. Now those are called ossicones. They're essentially like little horns, but it's bone that is fused to the skull. So they are born with them, but when they're born with them, they are actually not solid. So it takes about a couple of months before they become solid. Oh, this giraffe is moving off. And they use them, and particularly the males use them. That's why they're so much more broad. We'll try and get another view again. It might be a bit easier now that he's moving away. and you'll see that they're quite robust, quite big, whereas the females tend to be a lot more slender. Actually, yes, this is much better now, because now we can see his whole body. I think, can we, Craig? There we go. Let's see, I think we should be able to get him in. Yes, plenty of room this time around. It helps when he's not standing right next to the road, which is lovely because we love that. That's my absolute favorite. We'll try and have another look at his little ossicones. Here they are. And as we look from this side as well, it's quite nice. You can see, look at all those lumps and bumps that he's got covering his face. And they reckon that by the time a giraffe reaches 7 years old, and this is specifically to a male, his head weighs 10 kilograms more than what it was when he started, when he was first born. How crazy is that? And that's just from all the calcification that they build up around their face. And that helps protect. Hey, thank you for being so kind. Now, Skip, who is from Texas and is only 11 years old. You were wondering, how cool is that? Skip, did you see how that giraffe used its tongue to clean its nose? Isn't that amazing talent? I think that is quite wonderful. Not that I'd want to do it, but oh my gosh, a hyena has just walked past the giraffe. Look at that. Skip, I'm going to get back to your question. Who do we have here? Now, all of you hyena fundies that are out there, quickly take a couple of screenshots. Let us know who this is. I have no idea who it is. It doesn't look like Gwen. This one is not so tattered. So you can hashtag Safari Live with who you think that this hyena may be, or questions at WildEarthTV. Not going to stick around for too long. And off it goes. And did you see that giraffe wasn't even too bothered? It sort of just turned its head and gave a slight sort of disapproved look, but hasn't moved. No, stopped looking and going to continue with breakfast. You can see. Because it's a big male giraffe, he's not particularly frightened of a hyena. So sorry, Skip.